Oh, we probably need to do a roll call first, right? Sorry. Here.
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 Here. Okay, now report on council actions.
Truck for the family home was approved. And then had code changes for parking townhouse development. You heard, and also changing fencing around school properties. A code change. And that was it.
Okay. Sounds good. I will take a motion to approve the consent agenda unless there's any discussion.
Make a motion, we approve the consent agenda.
Okay, is there a second?
Second. I'll
second. It's been. Yep. It's been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, consent agenda is approved.
Commissioners, I forgot to mention, you should have gotten a meeting invite for P&Z calendar, or a P&Z calendar invite today from Karen for multiple days. It was just for internal purposes. We needed to change the calendar, so no need to worry about it. We're not changing any of the dates or anything. It was all just for internal purposes.
Just want to see if we were paying attention, right?
Yeah. That's
I
what-
declined all of them. I'm just kidding. All right, I've got 6 o'clock. We'll go ahead and get started with the public hearings this evening. Just to run through I think everybody kind of knows what the deal is, but if not, we'll call the applicant up. They'll give their presentation. They have 7 minutes to present, except the third public hearing, we're going to allow 10 or more if she needs it. It's a lengthy presentation. So after the applicant, we'll have the staff give their staff report. Then we will open the public testimony part of the hearings, and make sure you sign up on the iPad to state whether you're for, against, or undecided on each item. And the only way we'll be able to call you up is if you sign up and you come up, state your name and address for the record, give your testimony, and you have 3 minutes to do that. If you don't want to speak and you're signed up, just go ahead and say, I'm for or against or whatever, and don't want to speak. So with that, after that, we'll close the public hearing, we'll deliberate amongst ourselves and render a decision for each item. So let's go ahead and get started. The first public hearing this evening is a subdivision short plat approval for W. Dooley Development Subdivision in an RS 22 zoning district at 3620 and 3300 South Halibut Lane for Blake Wolf. Is the applicant here? All right, come on up. Hi, Blake. State your name and address.
My name is Blake Wolf. I live at 843 West Horizon Way here in Nampa. Tonight, I am just acting on a parcel I came to you about a year ago to annex with the intention of doing what we're doing tonight, and that's platting it into a small residential development. It'll be total 5 lots, 4 building lots. Lots a little bit bigger because we were not able to get sewer back in there. It will be city water, city irrigation, and individual septics. It's served by a private driveway. I have already utilized the one-time administrative split and pulled 2 building permits on the far south end. And I've done that through an approved civil site plan. It's all part of what you can do in this scenario. And I am just here to subdivide the bigger lot into 2 more single-family lots. And that's about it. It's a pretty simple little development.
Any questions?
Any questions?
All right, thank you. Let me call you back up. Parker?
Thank you, Chairman and Commissioners. The action requested is approval or denial of a short plat. As the applicant said, it's 4 buildable lots and 1 common lot. Again, this was annexed in 2022. The splitting off the southern lot was done in November of 2022. And then in February, the applicant was issued a site improvement permit to build the road accessing the southern lot as well as any future lots here. And then building permits were issued in March this year for those southern 2 lots. There's an overview, the plat there. So the regulations for RS-22, the minimum lot size is 23,000, the largest is an acre. And the width is required at least 80 feet. Setbacks, 20 feet to the garage, 15 feet to the living portion, and then 5 feet in the sides and rears. Correspondence, some street naming from engineering. Fire district, this is 1.8 miles from Fire Station 2, 6-minute response time. And then Boise CUNY Irrigation had a comment on property being on high groundwater and having no water rights. The plat is 3.39 acres. The smallest lot is 27,508. The largest is 31,988. The short plats are exempt from open space, and none are provided here. And then each house would have to have sufficient parking, which is 2 per unit, 1 being covered. And then we had a requirement for landscaping. Well, that being in just the front, there's an area being between the irrigation easement and the drive aisle. That's about 1,000 square feet that would be required to be landscaped. Conditions of approval are in the staff report. The potential motions there, and I'll stand for any questions.
Questions? All right, thank you. We'll go ahead and move on to public testimony. Karen has a sign up sheet. Nobody signed up? Okay. So the comment from about the property having no water right, does that matter?
I mean, they're not farming it, so
Yeah.
they're gonna have pressure irrigation.
Okay, cool.
I need to correct that. If they have no water rights, surface water rights, we cannot serve them pressurized irrigation unless they reestablish their right with one of the districts.
They just run it off their well. They can have wells.
They would be doing, I assume, connecting to city domestic, and we do not allow for them to do that. They would need to work with the underlying districts to reestablish a right.
I was just curious because I've never seen that one before.
Does Mr. Wolf understand that? It looked like you were like,
That's an issue. Okay, well,
Is that, do we need to do anything for that today, or is that isn't, that's something you guys need to work out, right?
before the final plat goes through? Yeah, okay. All right. How hard is it to get a water right back?
It depends on which district you're working with.
How about Boise CUNA?
Hypothetically.
I have not been through the process with Boise CUNA before. With Nampa Meridian, it's not too bad.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Okay. Right. Any questions, Blake, that none of us can answer, but apparently? Good luck. All right, public testimony, no one signed up. Anybody else have questions, comments before we close, or before someone makes a motion to close the hearing?
Motion to close public hearing.
Second.
It's been moved by Steve and seconded by Peggy to close public hearing. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, public hearing's closed.
Well, apparently there's no discussion, so I make the motion to approve the subdivision short plat for West Dooley Development subdivision in the RS 22, totaling 3.39 acres for Blake Wolf Building Company, and with recommended conditions and adopting point potential findings in the staff report.
Okay, it's been moved and seconded to approve the short plat for Blake Wolf. All those in favor?
Aye.
Oh, sorry. Brett. Yep.
Thank you.
Thanks, Blake. Good luck.
None opposed? Okay. You're good. All right, next item on the agenda is an annexation and zoning to RS6, zoning district and potential development agreement for a 1.53 acre parcel at 2226 and 2230 West Orchard. For Ken Cook, Timberline Surveying representing Kenneth Roberts, single parcel with 2 existing homes to be split into 2 parcels with a home on each parcel.
My name's actually Patty King.
Oh, hi.
I'm an employee of Timberline Surveying, so I'm representing Timberline Surveying, representing Kenneth Roberts.
Your name and address, please.
Patty King, home address or work address for Timberline?
Either one.
Okay, 847 Park Center Way, number 3, Nampa, Idaho.
Okay, great.
Mayor,
Can we
should she
set her
have
at
7?
7 minutes? If you,
I don't need 7 minutes.
we're counting down from 2:45.
This is my first,
All right.
okay, this is my first time up here, so hopefully I give you all the information that's needed, but it's pretty simple. Mr. Roberts has a lot that has 2 existing homes on it currently with 2 addresses, and he was wanting to split that lot so that he can appropriately have a lot for each home. He's not planning on any development, maybe eventually down the road, just selling off one of the acres, but he just wanted to establish 2 lots, 2 tax parcels, because there's 2 existing homes. So that's why we are asking to annex in. And I don't even think the zoning is changing. I think it's already that same RS6 zoning, but I could be wrong.
Any questions? All right, we'll call you back up if we have them. Thank you. Rodney.
Mr. Chair and Commissioners, for the record, Rodney Ashby, Planning and Zoning Director. I'll go through this pretty quickly. There are already established 2 homes, as she's mentioned. The comprehensive plan designates this area as medium-density residential. Because it needs to annex, it's not zoned, so it will need to be zoned, of course. So that would be the RS6 zoning. As you can see here, RS6 is definitely in the area to the north and to the south. I can go through specifics there, but we have utilities available. There's development pretty much all around. This is an enclaved area. It's just a larger enclave. A little closer view of those 2 homes and the utilities there. So these are the staff recommendations. We find that the annexation criteria are all met and that the zoning criteria are met, though it does give, the code does give the commission the ability to use their discretion about whether it complies with number 2, 3, and 5. So you will need to determine that if you feel differently. Here's the applicable regulations for annexation, applicable regulations for zoning. You have those in your packet. and then the specific code related to the RS zone and the setbacks that are required in the RS6 zoning district. So minimum lot size, 6,000 square feet. Maximum lot size is 12,000 square feet, which is a little bit tricky on this one because they exceed that maximum lot size, but it is for a buildable lot. So because they're not building anything on it, they're just splitting it off, there's no restriction on that in the code.
Rodney, is that where the development agreement would come into play?
You could, but it's already written into codes that they can do that. It's just, we call it buildable, so they couldn't pull a permit for a new home or addition to their home or anything because the lot size is not appropriate. A little more of the setbacks and parking requirements. Those are all in your staff report. And here's a layout of how they'll divide that parcel. As you can see, 26,923 is the square feet, so, and then 32,792 on the front property. What this does is it enables it to be subdivided at a future date to add additional homes if that's the wish. Correspondence we received, those are all in your packet. I can address any of those if you would like, but they're pretty straightforward, pretty typical responses from building and engineering. I think it's pretty clear that it meets the comprehensive plan. The land uses are consistent in that area. I don't have a lot to say about all of these. It does not meet the threshold to require a traffic impact study, 2 homes that are already there. So here are the conditions of approval that are engineering's conditions, and then the findings of approval that are all in your packet. And again, I can speak to these. Try to put a lot of detail in here to just show that it does comply. And then here are a couple of motions for your consideration, and I'd stand for questions.
Okay, any questions for Rodney?
I do.
Okay.
So, going back to the lot size deal, that means,
I'm sorry, I can't hear you guys
Oh.
very well
I'm sorry,
up there.
is that any better, or is it?
Yeah,
Okay.
yeah.
Regarding the lot size thing, so they can't pull any permit or do anything the way it stands now, is that,
So you
What
can
you
pull a
said.
permit for so it's a legal, non-conforming use essentially, right? So as long as they're not expanding that use or making it less conforming, then you can pull a permit for, electrical, re-roof, anything like that,
they couldn't add on to their home
but they couldn't add on to the home
unless they, subdivide?
unless they subdivide.
What if we went to the next level
That's what I was gonna ask.
of zoning, RS,
Exa-
7 or whatever, to give them, so that if they
So
wanted
it's
to,
pretty significant difference. It would almost be, their
22.
size is 32,000
Yeah.
square feet. You're gonna be into the low density designation on the comprehensive plan. So that wouldn't work.
Wouldn't work, yeah.
And they don't have to do any of the frontage improvements until they
Until they subdivide,
or do
correct.
something, okay. So it's gonna be a pretty high cost addition if they wanna do it.
Hmm? Yeah. So you'll have an opportunity to stand back up at the end.
All right, that answers it, so.
Okay, any other questions? Good question. All right, we'll go to public testimony for this item. Anybody on the sign-up sheet? Nobody? Okay, do we want to have the applicant back up? Give her
Sounds
a
like,
chance to ask her question? I don't know, unless you want to say no, then we could, I'm just kidding. Come on up.
I don't know that it's really relevant to this situation, but I'm curious if he had not applied for the zoning and the annexation, and he wanted to do an addition on his house prior to this, would he have been allowed a permit, or
Through the county, not through the city, because
Okay.
you're not annexed into the city.
understood? That's all. Thank you.
Okay. Sorry. All right.
You were right.
Oh, jeez. Motion to close public hearing or anything else? Okay.
Second.
Moved by Steve, seconded by Peggy to close public hearing. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, closed. What do you think?
I don't hear any discussion. Anybody have any discussion? Nope. Mr. Chairman, I move to recommend approval for the annexation and zoning to RS6 zoning district with signed addresses 2226 and 2230 West Orchard for Ken Cook, Timberline Surveying representing Kenneth Roberts, so on and so forth, with all conditions listed in the staff report, and to adopt the proposed findings of approval as stated in the staff report.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to approve this annexation and zoning. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right. That motion carries. That'll go to City Council. Thank you. All right, item 3 this evening is an annexation and zoning to RS6 zoning district and potential development agreement at 19628 and 0 Franklin Road. Planned unit development and subdivision preliminary plat for Resting Rock subdivision for Sabrina Durchie with KB Home Idaho representing the owner Linda Noggle. 291 single-family detached dwelling units, or dwelling lots, 1 commercial lot, and 32 common lots, continued from our May 9th hearing and May 23rd hearing. Is the applicant here? Come on up.
Chairman, members of the commission, hello and good evening. For the record, my name is Sabrina Durchie, and I am here on behalf of KB Home. My business address is 1299 North Orchard Street, Boise, Idaho, 83705. And this evening, I am so excited to be able to present to you our applications for the Resting Rock subdivision. But first, before I get into the nut and bolts of our application, I would really like to introduce you to KB Home. So, we're a national home builder that was founded in 1957. Everything KB Home does is focused around our customers and offering a superior home buying experience. For over 65 years, we have operated from the belief that the best homes start with the people who live in them. And that commitment to our customers can be seen by being ranked the #1 national home builder when it comes to customer satisfaction. And we take this ranking very seriously, with our pledge to exceed all customers' expectations by having each home 100% complete and our customers 100% satisfied before they finalize the purchase of their home. KB Home is also the #1 energy efficient national home builder and is committed to sustainability and energy efficiency, with each home being Energy Star certified. This provides our homeowners with lower housing costs, promotes water conservation, and helps preserve the environment and natural resources with each home we build. There we go. Now I would like to welcome you to Resting Rock subdivision. Resting Rock is going to be a welcoming community and will be a special place to call home. Oh, I'm going back. Sorry. There we go. Our site design hosts many creative features from ample open space, thoughtfully designed amenities, and our KB built-to-suit home sites. Here's a picture of our great entrance points into the development. With Resting Rock, we are requesting an annexation, zoning of R6, a plan unit development, and a preliminary plat for a total of 291 single-family residential lots. Our gross density will be 4.2 units per acre, with our residential lot sizes ranging from 4,800 to up to 9,000 square feet. Now, I would like to talk to you about timing. So, Resting Rock will be developed into 7 phases. And as you can see at the slide, our phases 1 and 2 are anticipated to be at 2027. Phases 3 and 4 will be in year 2028. Phase 5 will be in 2029. Phase 6 will be in 2030, and Phase 7 will be estimated at 2031. So you can see that we are not slated until 2027. So why such a late start? Well, as you can see at the bottom with the arrow saying Cherry Grove subdivision, that is a subdivision that's directly south of the site. We just broke ground on the project a few weeks ago, so we're kind of flushed with lots, and the need for getting things started right away is just not necessary. So we're also trying to be a little strategic concerning our phases and starting them adjacent to Cherry Grove and working our way up north. This enables us to bring existing infrastructure from Cherry Grove, but also allows a majority of the site to remain farmed, and 2, will allow ITD to finish their expansion improvements along Highway 2026. We at KB are super excited for our project Cherry Grove subdivision, since this is going to be our first development in Nampa, and it's directly south of Resting Rock. Here's a depiction of the 2 projects together once built out. Our plan is to have both developments seamlessly transition into one another. Recently, the City of Nampa and this commission updated their comprehensive plan called the Highway 2026 Specific Area Plan. One of the triggers for this update is that the city realized a majority of the land holdings are owned by developers and realized this area would be developing soon. However, you guys wanted it to be master planned and handled right and aligned with the city's vision for this area, and that's what your update provided. Resting Rock's area has been slated for medium-density residential and a mixed use of commercial and multifamily. This slide depicts all the current commercial in the area. And the area highlighted in teal blue is a story I have to tell you about, but I have to go back about a year. Originally, this parcel was included in our application for Resting Rock, which is slated for commercial and multifamily. But it is owned under separate ownership, and when I had everything kind of ready to go and submit, the owners would not sign an affidavit of legal interest allowing me to submit on their behalf. So, after months and months and months of gridlock and some disappointment on my end, I just kind of had like a light bulb moment as a planner. Is just that they're not ready to submit. And I just followed up with them recently, and they're still working on a site plan for their commercial and multifamily. So it kind of also made me look at, is this area even ready for commercial and multifamily? And what really, there needs to be a few more pieces of the puzzle that needs to happen in order to make that work. So they need to have an annexation path, which we would provide, but they also need the rooftops in order to support the commercial multifamily that they're really proposing. And they're going to need the infrastructure, which we're providing. But again, it's going to be 2031, and by the time we're up in that area. So it's going to take some time for this area to really have the mixed use and commercial component, but it will happen. It's just going to take a little bit of time. So let's talk about utilities real quick. So on-site utilities, we are currently, as I mentioned, Cherry Grove has already started, and we're going to be bringing up sewer and water from Linden over by the high school. We're going to be boring under that 5 Mile Creek and bringing it up on Franklin, which will be stubbing it into the Resting Rock subdivision or area. So we are installing it. We're paying for, KB's paying for the infrastructure. So those services will be in that area. Also, we're currently building a regional pressurized irrigation pump station for Cherry Grove that's going to be servicing this entire site as well. So something else in the infrastructure component that KB is providing. I have been working closely with Joey Palmer at the Valley View School District, and I'm beyond elated for him personally on the recent passing of the school bond. He has updated his letter for this development, which should be in your reports, and Joey informed me that they would be immediately starting plans for the new elementary school that's kind of slated next to the high school for 2025. So once again, I'm going to reference my phasing plan, that we're not planning on people occupying any of the homes until 2027. So that'll give ample time for the schools and for the infrastructure to be built. Let's now talk about the homes. Our largest customer segment is first-time homebuyers. The homes we build address a significant need in many of our markets, such as the Treasure Valley, to create additional housing that is affordable at a median income level. With each home, we offer personalization and choices from selection of home site, floor plan, and construction options. This allows the homeowner for a build-to-suit option that works with their budget and, most importantly, their lifestyle. KB Home's motto is that we are built on relationships, and the most important relationship is our customer. So before the foundation is poured or the first nail is set, we get to know our home buyer on a personal level, and together we design personalized homes that work around how they live day to day. Within Resting Rock, we are offering a variety of housing options that will range from size from 1,300 square feet to 3,200 square feet. And the pricing, they told me, was going to start in the low 300,000s and range up to the mid 500,000s for the larger home sites. Within each community that KB Home builds, open, usable space is extremely important, for it sets the foundations of our community's amenities, pathways, and interconnectivity that make the community special. Here in Resting Rock subdivision, we have designated a total of 6.1 acres that equates to 15% usable open space. Pathway connectivity and walkability is a priority within Resting Rock subdivision, as seen in our pathway exhibit. Yellow depicts our regional detached sidewalks. Orange depicts our community sidewalks, and blue illustrates our micro pathways that fan out throughout the site. And I'm wrapping up, just a few more slides. So, Resting Rock subdivision has been thoughtfully designed to include 6 parks. This slide shows each park's location. Park 1 will be the community's focal point as you drive down the main entrance to phases 1 and 2. This park has been designed for our residents to gather and engage. Over a half-acre in size, this community park will have a nature garden, playground, picnic tables, and fire pit. Park 2 will be in the center of phases 3 and 4. This park will have play logs and rocks for kids to explore and play on. The park will also have a picnic area and cozy hammocks for residents to enjoy and relax in. Park 3 will be a half an acre in size. This park will be split into 2 active areas, with one side having a natural play logs and fire pit with seating, and the north side having a more quieter sitting area surrounded by landscape planters. Parks 4 and 5 are going to be in our large central park area, and they'll have pickleball courts, playground, covered picnic shelters with additional fire pits and gathering areas. Finally, our 6th park is located north of the site, and it's in our last phase, which will have a playground and picnic area. I held a neighborhood meeting on February 2nd at the Franz Whitty Nursery and had approximately 22 people in attendance. The meeting went well. The neighbors were very cordial, very sweet and respectful, which makes a neighborhood meeting sometimes go a little better. Their concerns was density, their country lifestyle, school capacity, traffic and ITD improvements along Highway 2026, and is the remaining parcel going to be farmed, and what were our plans were for it. So, with that, thank you for the extra time. I really appreciate it. I strongly feel, and we strongly feel, that Resting Rock will be a premier community for the city of Nampa. I hope I've demonstrated that through my applications and this presentation, and have shown you that every detail has been designed to create a community that the residents will love to call home and really complement the city's vision for this area. I want to thank Christy and Caleb. Caleb's not here. Daniel, I'm thanking Caleb. They worked extensively with me for over the past year on this application, and we're in agreement with the staff report. And with that, I'll thank you for the pleasure of your time, your thoughtful consideration, and respectively request approval of our applications this evening. And thank you. Thank you for the extra time, Chairman.
Thank you. Any questions? Okay.
Okay.
We'll call you back up.
Okay.
Christy.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Commissioners. Christy Watkins, Principal Planner for the City of Nampa. The request before you this evening is for recommendation of approval or denial for annexation and zoning to RS6 with a planned unit development and preliminary plat for Resting Rock subdivision. There is no commercial lot included with this application. We want to make that perfectly clear. So these are the proposed findings for approval. Staff finds that all the criteria for annexation has been met and was outlined in your staff report. The potential findings for the zoning that will be assigned to it, staff finds that the proposed RS6 zoning and the proposed subdivision provide compatible uses to the area because of the current development and the future development that is planned via the comprehensive plan for that area. The project provides necessary services to this underserved area. Compass indicates that commercial enterprises along Highway 2026 will need the residential support to be successful. This project is in the best interest of the public because orderly growth will ensure that services, improvements, and amenities are located in the most beneficial locations to serve Nampa residents. However, due to the annexation, you do have some flexibility in determining whether or not this is the appropriate place and time for this project. The city's long-range planning staff states that in that specific area plan, where it is designated as community mixed use along Highway 2026, the single-family housing for that northern area is not compatible with the highway and other land uses along the corridor. The future land use map allows land use designations to be stretched over to an adjacent parcel. However, in this instance, they do not necessarily agree with stretching it. So they don't necessarily agree with the fact that this is orderly development of the city. And Compass states that this project scores low for safety, convenience, parks, schools, and quality of life due to the proximity of the Highway 2026. Would like you to take into consideration noise impacts for future residents. So this property is located at the southeast corner of Highway 2026 and Franklin Road. There are ag properties to the east and west, and the city-zoned property to the south, which is the Cherry Grove subdivision. The city does have adequate capacity to serve this property with water, sewer, and pressure irrigation with the improvements that they are making at Cherry Grove. So as stated, the community mixed use is along the highway, but they does have the option to stretch the medium-density residential onto that parcel that is to the north. Compass has scored this positively as far as economic vitality goes. It is not currently served by public transportation, but it is shown as an unfunded express route on Highway 2026 for the future. So for traffic, there is a traffic impact study that is under review by the City of Nampa, Canyon Highway District Number 4, and the Idaho Transportation Department. It's not anticipated that any new comments from these agencies would affect the results of the recommendations of this study. The green dots on the map show the 5 intersections in the area that are at a substandard level of service, but not the specific responsibility of this project. The red dots show the 4 turn lanes that will be required with this development all along Franklin Road. The blue line on Franklin Road shows the future City of Nampa capital improvement project for widening that will take place over the next 5 years. ITD is in the process of right-of-way procurement along the highway through 2024 with potential construction for 5 lanes to begin in 2025. Upon complete build-out, this project could potentially provide approximately $826,000 towards the future traffic improvements for this area. So this project was discussed and submitted prior to our new codes being adopted in March. So with the PUD, the zone requires that standard building lots are not smaller than 4,800 square feet and not larger than 9. In this case, the smallest is 4,800 square feet and the largest is 8,928 square feet. Therefore, it is deemed compliant. The landscape plan was submitted and reviewed by the city forester, and there are some requests to replace the green ash. There's also a requirement in the Highway 2026 plan for a 30-foot landscape buffer. They proposed a 30-foot landscape buffer. There's a requirement for 35 feet, so that has become a condition of approval. Open space is provided at 15%, which is a requirement of the planned unit development criteria. And as she stated, it will include playgrounds, pocket parks, picnic areas, pickleball courts, and active open spaces. So the slight increase in density caused the need to apply for the planned unit development. This development proposal meets all of the requirements of the planned unit development criteria. As far as correspondence goes, we have had some public input. There were some phone calls and letters received today, and there were 2 letters from residents received earlier that are in your staff report. They were concerned with traffic, existing livestock, preserving ag land, school capacity, and visual appeal of the area. Building department submitted their standard Title IV building requirements. GIS has some requests to change some of the street names. The Kenyon Highway District requests that the city accept responsibility for the adjacent roadways should this be annexed. The forester has asked for replacement of the ash trees. The long-range planner does not feel like this meets the comp plan in some aspects. ITD submitted a list of comments in regards to the traffic impact study, which they are dealing with currently. Pioneer Irrigation claims that the 5.5 lateral easement must be protected. The Valley View School District did have a bond that passed, and there will be new schools forthcoming. The Police Department recommends the need for 1.17 officers and 0.39 support staff based on the increase of population that this will bring. The nearest fire department is 3.2 miles away. That's fire station number 3 with a 7-minute response time. Engineering does not oppose this request, and they have listed their conditions of approval in the staff report. These are the conditions of approval that we have applied to this project as listed in your staff report. And these are your motions. I will stand for any questions.
Okay, any questions for Christie?
Yeah, I do. I have a question, more of kind of a what if. So it's apparent that future planning is not necessarily on board with this project because single-family homes are on 2026. Could you go back to that map of the showing, yeah, right there. Yeah, that'll work too.
Okay.
If that section where that arrow is pointing project location, if that was commercial and the rest of it residential, would that eliminate the concern that future planning may have for a development like this on 2026?
Commissioner Kirkman, yes, I believe that it would, and we have had that conversation with the applicant. You may want to raise that question to her. I don't believe that KB Homes is in the market to develop those kinds of projects, and so that could be the reasoning. But they also knew that they may be partnering with that other corner, and when that fell through, it kind of changed their plans a little bit.
Well, and that's what I was thinking, since that fell through, and certainly we can ask the applicant, I appreciate that, but the concern from planning's part is that those single-family homes are right on 2026.
Correct.
Okay.
Any other questions? This time? Okay, we'll go ahead and open public testimony for this item. Karen, give the sign up. And again, if we call your name and you would rather not speak, and just say if you're for or against or undecided, that's fine. If you want to come up, by all means, come up. Just make sure you state your name and address for the record and tell us what's on your mind in 3 minutes.
Chair, hello, members. My name is Laura Villegas. I live in 7685 East Iroquois Street here in Nampa. And I signed up to speak against. I'm not really strongly against. I mostly came to become educated, and I've learned a lot through the exposition, so thank you for all the presentation. I think my main concerns were, well, some of them were addressed on timeline of the project, the development density, and well, those were addressed. I think, to summarize, like, my position, 3 messages, really: traffic, preserving the ag land, and then safety on the road. I care about this item in particular because my favorite thing to do is to bike around the city limits of Nampa. I find these landscapes really healing and inspiring, and I do go out of my way to find a place where I find this beauty and also it's safe for me to bike around. So something that worries me a little bit, but I'm trying to understand what's the vision for this part of the city, is how it's going to develop, and if I'm going to see less of the open spaces and if I'm going to run into more traffic, and maybe I need to change my go-to route for the bike ride. So that's really kind of what I have to say. I don't know I guess they're going to widen up the road in North Franklin, and that's going to help things out. But yeah, that's what I have in mind.
Thank you.
Hello, Bo Bonds here, 8080 East Rinkard Lane, lifelong resident of Nampa, fourth generation Nampa. I'm not opposed to growth. I just want smart growth. That's kind of what I'm here to really convey. I got my little laser pointer here, but if you notice, we've got all this undeveloped land. I believe in the residential development guidelines from City of Nampa. There's chapter 10-2 is the infill development. I could read it for you. Infill development is a process developing vacant or underused parcels within the city. Infill development allows the utilization of existing community services such as sewer and water rather than constructing new facilities in areas that have not been developed in city limits. Police and fire services areas would not need to be extended. In addition, infill development can reduce the consumption of land and resources, fully utilizing existing facilities and services rather than extending costly services to outlying areas, thus offers savings for local government budgets, increasing the housing supply, renew investment in the city, provide energy and environmental savings, and infill development could limit sprawl and protect the natural surroundings of Nampa. This is, in my opinion, sprawl, because it's basically leapfrogging undeveloped land that's already annexed. And I think we need to, in my opinion, take care of what's already annexed in the city before we start jumping out and pushing the boundaries and sprawling out into undeveloped places. Schools are overcrowded, fire and police are shorthanded. We're just not quite equipped for the growth out here yet. I have concerns about existing residential wells, without the replenishment from the flood irrigating. We've seen wells go dry in different places in the valley. South Nampa is one of the places. Of course, traffic concerns, that's always a big concern with everybody, is traffic. You hear it every time, I'm sure. I'm already going to lose a house, and I live right there. I'm losing a house and about a quarter acre of land due to the expansion of this ITD project, so I'm a little bit sensitive as it is. This is a proposed RS6. This Cherry Grove is an RS85. I don't agree with that being passed in the first place, but it was, annexed in 10 years ago. It is what it is. I would ask that this new development matches the existing one that's in process if this does get approved. It doesn't make sense to have more density further away from town to me. So
Mr. Bonds.
Could I get just a couple more minutes?
No, sorry. You can have like 30 seconds.
Okay. So we just went through this less than a year ago with another SAPE subdivision just across the road. You guys remember some of the notes that were done there. Canyon Highway District number 4 has been in discussions with the city regarding utility placement and maintenance of the right-of-way, and have made a request that building permits be withheld until ITD has completed improvements. Nampa Engineering Department has indicated they will recommend waiting on all projects in this area due to challenges providing city utilities and access at this time. So based on a denial last year, I'd ask that you do the same this time. Thanks.
Thank you. I'm sure Christie'd buy your laser pointer from you.
No, I thought this was yours.
Is that ours?
Oh.
Yeah, that thing's nice.
I'm Stacy Driscoll, 8249 East Drinkard Lane, Nampa, Idaho. My biggest concern is, of course, a lot of us are on wells out there, and a lot of the last summer when it got so hot, a lot of wells went dry. So I think our table for the wells and stuff is a concern. And then also where they say that the fire department is 3.7 miles away and a 7-minute time to get there. I think they must be overloaded because our neighbor had a barn that was burning down and he called, of course, 911. And by the time the fire department got there, and it ended up coming from Middleton, and it was 20 minutes later and his barn was burned down. He couldn't do anything about it at that point. So these are some of the concerns I think about. Of course, traffic, everything I agree with Bo and what the other people have said. I just don't think that we're quite ready for that yet, and I just think that we're kind of overfilled with traffic without having any of the infrastructure in place. So that's what I have, so thank you.
Mr. Chair, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Something just hit me.
It was a brick.
Yeah, it was a break. So, the last two individuals that just testified, Ms. Drinkard?
Driscoll, they're on Drinkard Lane.
On Drinkard Lane, okay. Okay, so, all right, now, it's all clear now. I have an individual that's employed, that I employ, whose last name is Drinkard Bonds, and then that's your wife? Okay, I want to make sure that that's out, full disclosure. She does work, your wife works for me in my job, so I just want to make sure that that's full disclosure because I was starting to put the names together and then it hit me.
Like a brick.
Like a brick.
All right,
Yeah,
thank you.
So I don't think anything has to happen. I don't need to recuse myself.
Does she carry a
I
gun?
just want to make sure that that's out there. What?
Does she carry a gun?
All right.
He works for the,
She might after this.
yeah, with,
It's all right, it's all right. We can move forward. I just want to make sure that that was out.
Okay. Thank you. Next person. Okay, thank you. You have to come up to the microphone, please, unless you don't want to speak.
Oh, okay. Nancy Drinkard, 8249 East Drinkard Lane, Nampa, Idaho. And I just want to oppose it. I agree with what they've spoke about, what's been talked about already. I think it's too early. It's not a good time to have a subdivision like that.
Okay, thanks, Ms. Drinkard.
My name is Rocky Baker, and I live directly across this subdivision or proposed subdivision, 1984 5 North Franklin Boulevard. I just have two concerns, and I know you've heard this 1,000 times or more, but our infrastructure is so far behind. We're not gaining. Every year I see we're losing. The infrastructure that is proposed and trying to gain what every subdivision brings in. It exasperates the situation. Every subdivision. Am I against subdivisions? No. But I am against the idea that we can't catch up. We're not catching up. We're actually further behind now than we ever have been in our infrastructure throughout the whole valley. And I don't have to say anything about that because if you just go out during the day and try to go from one point to another, you know that you're going through stoplights and waiting 2 to 3, sometimes 5 times until that light you can go through. What my concern is that I don't see a vision for our valley in curtailing or moratorium on subdivisions until we have a structure not completely able to take care of everything, but at least get up to a point where it's feasible to go from one side of the town to the other without an hour-and-a-half wait. And that's what's happening. I'm out in this traffic all day long, going from one job to another, and it is unbelievable what you have to wait on to get to one person's house, finish that job up, and go to another. I've got to allow hours in traffic. Well, what's the bottom line on that? Well, when you look at your pay scale and what it costs for you to go from one side to the other side of the town to finish up a job, it runs into all kinds of high cost. So you have to come up with something to develop our infrastructure and slow things down where we can develop a good infrastructure. The last point that I wanted to make was economically. Our valley economically is not matching up to the lifestyles of what these homes are costing. It's not. It's not working.
That's time, Mr. Baker. Thank you. I hear you.
So we got two things that are very simple. We're inundated with subdivisions and people coming in to Idaho. There's nothing wrong with that, but we've got to plan and look at where we're at instead of continuing just to have one after another after another. It's a nice subdivision.
Mr. Baker.
It's nice homes.
I hear you.
But that's not the issue.
Your time's up, sir.
Okay,
Sorry.
thank you.
We hear you. Very passionate. Thank you.
No, I'm not going to cry this time. Shelley Montclair, 19721 Madison Road. I agree with everything they're saying. I live in a subdivision, and then we got the chance to move to land. And I know that you all know the difference between subdivision and the cute land that they provide for you in pictures. It's really cute. It's not always that way. And the land that we live on now. All of that is open land. That's what I call open land, not that cute picture of open land. And we chose that lifestyle for a reason. We bet well. We chose that because we have children, and we want to farm, and we want to live out. We thought out of city limits was far enough out to where I have a visual impairment and I don't drive at night, but maybe I need to get to the store fast enough that I needed to be near a store. But I wanted the land, so I have that. And I have chickens and goats and pigs, and we live off of our land. And a subdivision with that many houses near us is going to hinder that. It's going to affect our land. I don't care what anyone else wants to say about that. It will affect our land and our lifestyle. It will affect everything my kids do on a daily basis when I can say to my 10-year-old, hey, go weed that strawberry patch. And he sits out there and I have no concerns because there's no one around. But yet you put however 400 homes, 200 homes, whatever you want to do, there's going to be more than that. And that is going to concern me. That is going to be where, okay, so maybe my son's 14 by then. He's still going to be weeding our strawberry patch and taking care of our goats and our chickens, and so is my daughter. And that is a concern because I don't want all of that out there. We don't want all of that out there where we then have to think about the crime, think about the traffic, the noise, the people that live there. Hopefully they're good citizens, but not everyone is. So we were here first. I think our voices should be heard. You guys are really good at that. Normally, you gentlemen and ladies are pretty good at that, I hope. And I really am concerned about our water. And for the record, my neighbors who are in Spain right now also really are concerned about the wild animals. The geese lay out there in the transition times. We have tons of birds and wild animals, and that is taking away their life and their homes. So overall, I don't think it's a good time, right? We all want land. I know if you're realtors, You guys have heard, people want land. So give them 2 acres. Give them an acre. Don't give them the postage stamp. Thank you. I could see that.
Thank you.
You did great, by the way.
Don't you start crying.
I'll try not to cry, guys. Robert Montclair, 19721 Madison Road, Nampa, Idaho. Live with that lovely lady right there. Yes, we did have a meeting with the representation. It was cordial. It was really good. She did handle herself very, very well. We did bring our concerns up. But I think the same thing, and I'm pretty sure I'm beating a dead horse, which is infrastructure, traffic, blah, 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 blah. So I say in God we trust, which goes over there. So I ask you all to pray about this before you make your decision. I ask you, is this something that is definitely going to, is it really going to help the city at this point in time? Is it going to hamper or affect the folks that, longtime residents, new-time residents, children that are there? Schools are overpopulated. I'm glad I'm seeing a new school being built. By the time that thing's built, it's going to be full. Plain and simple, cut and dry. That's before they move in. So now we got to get another school, and that's just buying up more land. So when I was in the Marine Corps, we with the insurgency and everything, it was COIN, counterinsurgency, win the hearts and minds. And you guys are really in that position right now to win the hearts and minds of the local people who are pleading to you to really look at the timeline that is there. Is it really the right time for this time? It's going to eventually happen. We all know it. But to say yes right now, that's kind of putting your foot in the door. Once I got the foot in the door, you can't shut it. You might break my foot, but my foot's still in the door. I'm still getting in. So at this point in time, if you can just keep the door shut and just say, not right now, the door's unlocked, we're just not allowing you in right now, it still allows people to prepare, to get those things done, to look at, have a little bit more study on the environmental impact of what's going to happen. ITD doing their thing, police officers being hired, fire stations being done, firemen and firewomen being hired. I just think that that's something we really, really need to look at, and I pray that you guys, with your council wisdom, with the commissioner wisdom, really come up with that answer that you feel in your heart is what is best for the people outside of the city, not just within the city, because it will impact us all. So I thank you very much for your time. God bless.
Thank you, and thank you for your service, Mr. Montclair. All right. Next, that's it? Okay, should we have the applicant come back up and rebut, please? I made some notes. I saw you taking notes, so if you missed something, we'll try to help you.
Thank you again, Chairman, Council or Commissioners. My Sabrina Durkee, address 1299 North Orchard Street, Boise, Idaho 83706. So, are we going to be developing this overnight? Are there going to be 291 homes popping up overnight? No. This is going to be a slow transition. We're not even anticipating homes being built or occupied until 2027. And I want to go through everyone's comments and make sure everyone's concerns are addressed. But just to start, this is hard because we have some of these rural areas that the counties approve these larger subdivisions, and they've been out by themselves. I've seen this in the county. I've seen this in other cities. Actually, the hearing examiner at Caldwell, I had the same issue a couple weeks ago when I was listening, and it's hard. They've been there first. And slowly, city limits come, and slowly, they're kind of the odd man out. And so I think that your planning staff has handled it very well. I don't know if Christy has the comp plan, But the areas that these people live in, I went through, and your new comp plan that you just adopted designates those areas as low density. So their area is going to be preserved. Now, is this area changing? Yeah, you guys know it's changing because you guys didn't update the Highway 2026 area. And you guys have some pretty amazing vision for this area up against the Boise River. It's going to be beautiful, but this isn't happening tomorrow. It's not happening next year. It's going to be years and years and years from now.
Excuse me. On
Yes.
that note, I'm sorry.
Yeah, no,
Mr.
absolutely.
Chair, if I could. This goes back to my question to staff also, is so that section that borders 2026 with those
Sure.
single-family homes, knowing what you just said, and knowing the comp plan that was already in place, if I'm not mistaken, that comp plan said, or says, 2026 will be commercial. So why is KB proposing single-family homes all the way up to 2026 with that comp plan already in place?
Sure, Chairman, Councilmember Kirkman. So when we had originally came in, and I kind of explained that we tried to get that northwest corner, I called it the commercial
Right.
guys, and because we understood your desire for the new comp plan. We at KB don't build commercial, and we build residential. And so when we kind of came to that gridlock, and I'm like, I'm not getting this affidavit, Christie said that there's an option to stretch the medium density. Now, if you look at that area, the key area to where there's access is the corner piece. That's where the intense commercial and the multifamily, and then transition into the single-family residential. Our area doesn't have access to Highway 2026, nor Franklin Road, so it's a less desirable area. Now, I understand that your comp plans are visions, but is everything going to be built out exactly as your comp plan pictures it? No. But the intent of having mixed use in that area, the intent of having commercial, high-density multifamily, and medium-density residential will happen. It will happen. It just wasn't able to happen with this application. But we did look at it. We discussed it in depth with Christie, and we felt like this was the best option for us and for right now for this area. So, Commissioner Kirk, can I finish with the few
Yep,
other people's?
absolutely. Yep, go ahead.
Do you have any more
That's okay.
questions for me then?
Not yet.
Okay. So Laura, who came up, and she's a bike rider, and that area is very beautiful, and we understand the safety for bikers, and one of the conditions that's going to be required up against Franklin is to provide a biking lane. We're also widening, dedicating additional right-of-way, and improving that area with detached sidewalks. So we're hoping that it will create a safer corridor, especially bike lanes. That's needed, especially for safety concerns. Mr. Bonds, he talked about smart growth and infrastructure. We're bringing infrastructure up from Cherry Grove. Cherry Grove's already been approved, and it's a pretty hefty price, but we're bringing up the sewer and water and the pressurized irrigation. So the infrastructure is going to be there regardless. We're bringing it up as working on it this year for Cherry Grove. We feel that, again, this is an important area that, based on your new comp plan update, I know that you guys are anticipating development in this area. I've heard that there's some rumblings that Star might be trying to annex in the area as well. So this is an area it's going to be transitioning. It's going to be slowly. As far as wells, I was going to have Daniel kind of speak on that. Daniel, would you talk about wells and the impact that subdivisions have on them? Thank you. Sorry to put you on the spot.
Yeah, go ahead and finish.
Okay, I'm going to have Daniel speak on that. I do have our traffic engineer, Bob, is supposed to be on call to talk about the improvements of Highway 2026 and how that's going to alleviate a lot of the traffic concerns for this area. It's going to be more signalized and provide better traffic flow. Bob, are you online? Yes.
I am online.
Great. Bob, can you just take a few minutes and talk to the commission real quick about traffic?
Yes, real quickly, Regarding infrastructure, really the only issues that were apparent in the traffic impact study were on US 2026 and some isolated turn lane improvements at each of the access points. 2026, like I said, as far as level of service goes, those were the only issues. Those will be corrected by the US 2026 project being completed by ITD, as we speak. So all of that's been mitigated. The only other issue we noted as a potential problem was at Franklin and Eustic, where a future roundabout is planned. And that, again, is going to mitigate that situation as well. So all in all, there are no traffic issues that cannot be mitigated with what is planned. And in fact, I heard it stated earlier that the traffic study has in fact been approved by the city. All comments provided by the city and by ITD have been addressed, and the TIS has been resubmitted. And back in late May, we received confirmation from Caleb that everything was acceptable.
Any questions for while we have him? Okay. Keep going.
Thank you, Bob. As far as Cherry Grove, and we're having a little higher, is R6 versus the R8.5. So I'm referencing the comp plan again, but it was recommended that we used an R6 zone since that area is going to have a little higher density being buffered up against the commercial and multifamily. So that's kind of was the designation and the vision that was instructed by us. So that was the reason why we applied for the R6 zoning.
Is your preference to stay with R 8.5 with Cherry Creek until that recommendation from staff?
No, when we first start, we always come in, I don't even have a site plan, and we talk with the city and go, what are the goals? Because we really want to partner up. Like, we want to make sure this is what blends with the area and is going to fit the plan. And so I always have a pre-app, and then based on that information is the site plan that we go with. And so that's what happened in this instance. And again, I think the R6 is going to be more appropriate because there's going to be multifamily up there. So you really kind of want that commercial, multifamily, like that transitioning component up against. And so I think the R6 is the best zone for this site and what's proposed. As for fire, someone said that Middleton responded. I don't know if that's because they're in the county and they're not in city limits. Oh, I have people waving their fingers, so let's see what they have to say.
The Nampa Fire District line ends at the highway. North of the highway is Middleton.
Okay, that would explain.
So those would be the two fire districts that would be responding to that area, whichever one happened to be available.
They'll just meet in the middle of 2026.
Yeah.
Right?
Is there in a future, I have to think about the comp plan, I haven't seen it for a while, or the capital improvement plan, is there a station plan for that area anytime soon? Okay. I can't remember. I was on the impact fee committee, but that was a long time ago. Okay, sorry, go ahead.
Sure, thank you. One of the questions is infrastructure as far as traffic. So, and probably Daniel can answer this better since you guys have handle your own traffic. But again, it kind of comes the chicken with the egg situation is that you need the rooftops to pay for the impact fee and pay for the infrastructure improvements. And he could probably explain it way better than I can as far as how those impact fees work and stuff. But we are 100% believer that development needs to pay for its own way. And so there'll be assessed impact fees that we'll have to pay. ITD is gonna have impact fees for us as well. We'll have to put right and left turn lanes. Whatever requirements the ITD or our traffic study, ITD and the city of Nampa are gonna require, we're gonna be happy to meet those requirements. And then I think that kind of hits everything. I just really want to speak on, I think that this is going to be a phenomenal application. I think that with Cherry Grove and the timing, we're not in a big hurry. So again, A lot of those infrastructure, the improvements to Highway 2026, the school, all of those will be in place by the time our first 2027 occupancies for those homes. And I guess just to leave on, again, this development's not happening overnight. So please keep that in mind. It will, it'll be a great development and connect seamlessly with our Cherry Grove subdivision. So with that, again, I'll thank you. Sounds like Commissioner Kirkman had more questions for me.
We'll defer to anyone else who may have questions. First of all, your work is at 1299 North Orchard Street, correct?
Yes.
I know this is going to sound weird, but that's where my office is located. That's where
Is
I work
it?
also. So we may run into each other coming
Okay.
and going, so I wanted to throw that out there also.
You know Santa Claus too?
Should I be scared? Like,
When you said that, I was like, wait a minute, that sounds familiar. Oh, yeah, that's where I work. So
oh,
anyways, it's weird.
Small
It's been
world.
a weird evening, yeah.
In Boise?
Yeah. So,
What do you know?
I just can't get past this corner up there on, with the, butting up against 2026. I'm looking at, recommendations, so it.
Do you
from
do
the
you- do you have a
staff-
question for the applicant, though?
Yeah, well, no, you're right. I should hold off.
Okay.
I
We're not,
probably
we're
do.
not
I have a
ready to
question.
deliberate yet. Okay, go ahead.
And this might be for staff or for you, I don't, my, the improvements on Franklin, is that ITD or is that you?
Chairman, Commissioner Morgan. So on Franklin, that is city, and so that will be us.
Oh, okay.
We will be making those improvements. So along Highway 2026, we'll just be providing right-of-way, and they are making those improvements along that area.
So you're doing all the improvements on Franklin?
Yes. and-
Including the
yes.
bike lanes and all that? Is that voluntary or is that required? Is that for you or?
Mr.
Daniel,
Chair,
sorry.
Commissioner Morgan, so Franklin is an arterial roadway, so they are required to do the turn lanes that are triggered by their traffic improvements or their traffic impact study, and they're required to do the sidewalks. Anything beyond that is not something that is required by code, and so.
So is there a chance that there's just a bike lane next to this subdivision and nowhere else? Well, I guess you have Cherry Grove too. Are you putting in a
Yes,
bike lane
there'll
there?
be,
Okay.
yes, absolutely.
So at least by those two.
So,
Commissioner Morgan, we are actually transitioning from bike lanes to 10-foot side paths. So the detached sidewalk will actually be a 10-foot side path
Okay,
off the side of the road that they will be required to construct.
to fit bikes
Yes.
And people.
and, well, yeah.
Commissioner Moore, whenever Daniel's like, we need X, Y, and Z, we're like, you got it.
No, that makes sense. I misunderstood what ITD was doing and it didn't quite make sense.
Oh, sure.
That makes sense now.
Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions? Okay, thank you.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question for Christie, if I may. Christie, what you just said, the bike path basically is going to go on the sidewalk, more or less. Is that, last week, 2 weeks ago, you talked about the berms no longer being in favor of the city because it's the grass and the watering and all that. Is this kind of the same thing? You're trying to transition away from grass, so you're putting in this bike path there?
Commissioner Kehoe, we're actually trying to create a safer biking environment by removing bicycles from the roadway and taking them out of the travel lane. So if we put them onto a side path, then that kind of gives them a buffer from the traffic rather than having a bike lane out where people have to still go their
But you are
3 feet
killing
around.
two birds with one stone then?
Yes. So with our drought-tolerant landscaping, we're also covering more area with asphalt or concrete.
And obviously, the safety of the bicycles, I mean, I don't understand why we have so many problems with bicyclists and cars in this area, but we seem to have a tremendous amount of,
This is our effort to kind of
yeah.
combine.
Well, it all works
those
together, and I
things.
think that's good.
Okay.
Have him arrested.
Strike it from the record.
Okay, I'll entertain
Mr.
a motion to close unless.
Mr. Chair,
Yo.
so
Oh,
on the wells,
sorry.
we don't tend to find that transitioning from farm ground to subdivisions of this nature tends to affect the groundwater levels significantly. You still have irrigated surfaces within the yards and that, so you are still seeing some groundwater recharge. We're still utilizing a similar amount of irrigation water as the fields, just utilized differently through the pressurized system rather than the gravity system. And so the instances we've seen recently that have been discussed about issues with wells and them drying up have, in the end, been more related to well construction rather than groundwater levels.
How closely do you guys monitor that? I mean, are you watching that pretty much all the time?
We are active in the groundwater monitoring that IDWR does, and that in monitoring what they are doing. We don't do groundwater monitoring ourselves, other than, with our existing wells that are in the domestic and irrigation system that we have. This would be served by surface water, and then by our domestic wells. Well 20 that is right there south of the Valley View High School, or Ridgeview High School. We would not anticipate needing a new groundwater well for domestic out in this area anytime soon.
Okay. Any traffic questions? No. Any other questions? Traffic questions, anything? I don't think I have any. Okay.
Motion to close the public hearing.
Second.
It's been moved and seconded to close the public hearing. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? All right, public hearing is closed.
All right, can I
Yeah, hit it.
ask?
Deliberate.
Yeah, can I deliberate out loud? So, Christie, I'm looking at a map here up and down 2026, and I guess this is just trying to wrap my head around the reasons why long-range planning or future planning does not want single-family homes nestled up against 2026, which I get. But as I'm looking up and down 2026, and you move into the Meridian area, there's nothing but subdivisions and single-family homes nestled up against 2026. And I get it, there are different jurisdiction, and they have different comp plans and all that other kind of stuff. But with this small section here, and this, again, just for my clarification, if the developer, the applicant, were to build a sound wall and include that in that, I mean, would that be something that would mitigate the concerns that Nampa's future planning might have? Or is it just the access, the land use?
I think it's a concern about noise, so that might be something, a wall, a noise wall that would mitigate some of that.
But why would we care what the noise is if we're not living there? It's the people
Right.
who buy the home there, and
I think that the intent is, to kind of protect people from, I mean, obviously, they're going to know it's there if they buy a house there. Hopefully, they'll be aware. There's a 35-foot landscape buffer. I think the concern comes from, one, an effort to protect future residents, and two, the fact that there isn't the attached commercial component with this application, then there's no guarantee that that will actually happen. And so I think his concern stems from the fact that this project is just single-family residential and doesn't include that mixed-use component. And we don't have any guarantee that that other piece will actually happen. But I don't have an application for it. I've talked
Right.
to them about it as part of the pre-application process. So I believe the intent is there, but that's all we have to go on.
That's all
So
we
I
got,
think his
yeah.
concerns are stemming from just the lack of a guarantee that that will develop
Okay.
out.
That makes more sense to me than just saying, we don't like it because single-family homes are in 2026. Because that part didn't make sense to me, so.
Yeah,
have
and
it-
I think
have it more
the,
clear now.
you know, the access to 2026 really does create a problem if, in fact, we were to require that that whole frontage become commercial. It's quite likely that those pads wouldn't actually ever get occupied because you can't get to them.
No, yeah, not off of 2026.
So,
anyway. You'd have to come
There
in.
is a challenge there.
Do you know if ITD is going to require, or is going to put the mounds like they've got pretty much all the way down where they've got the residential butted up against 2026? Because those are pretty tall mounds, and then you got the fence on top of it, so.
Yeah, so our berming requirements have been lessened, as we stated,
Yeah.
because of the drought
But
tolerance
that'll be
stuff.
ITD, won't it?
They're not going to put any of the
Gonna require it
landscaping.
For there, okay.
But that's why we increased that landscape buffer to 35 feet off the highway, was to allow for that wider protection.
And I get it too, is that you're not going to get as much for those properties that are butted up to 2026, but you know, people know that when they go in there, that that's in their backyard. And yeah, I mean, you're only going to have so much access on and off of 2026, and anybody that doesn't commercialize that Franklin 2026 corner is leaving a lot of money on the table. So I don't see that not ever becoming commercial. It definitely will be. So I don't have a big concern with it running the property up to that 35-foot buffer.
Mr. Chair,
Yes.
can I jump in here real quick?
Sure.
I am thinking back on the process for developing the Highway 2026 plan that just recently got adopted. And I'm looking at it right now. It closely matches our comprehensive plan, of course, but gives a little more detail in this area, and it calls it for regional commercial and multifamily. And so I think part of the concern, as Christie has mentioned, is the noise, yes, but land use as well as, you know, concerns about commercial developing as part of a kind of a master plan or as part of the development, that there are connections to that commercial. But it's also that we have a limited number of spaces throughout the comp plan that we've designated for multifamily. And that, as well as commercial. And so I think that part of the concern there is we just went through a 2026 plan, and then we adopt this with specific direction on land use. Again, this plan is flexible. It's not meant to be exact, but if we turn around just shortly after the plan is adopted and utilize an area that was designated for multifamily and commercial for single family, then are we following the plan? I think that that's part of his concern as well. So just wanted to insert that thought there.
And that makes sense, especially with 16 going in too. I mean, that 2026, 16 intersection, I mean, that's nothing but prime land use for multifamily and commercial. Yeah. Okay. That was a thought I probably should have just kept to myself.
So, can you explain why it was a PUD rather than just a straight RS6 designation? Was that due to lot size?
Yeah, so some of it was due to lot size that caused an increase in density for what we were doing at the time that they submitted this. We were still going off the net density calculation, so we were taking out all of their open space and we were only calculating density on the buildable area. So in an effort to try to create density in a way that wasn't like apartments and massing. We were trying to do the smaller lot sizes to get more units in, again, closer to those commercial areas. So through a PUD, they have the ability to increase the density by 20%, which makes those lots a little bit smaller. And so they utilized that option through the planned unit development criteria.
What if they were to possibly revamp it and the northern boundary be duplex tile townhomes? We'd get some multifamily in there, they'd be 0 lot line properties. Would that be enough of a mixed use that long-range planner wouldn't have as much of a heartache over it? I'm not even sure that's something
Yeah, I don't know.
Consider, I don't even know if
Homes-
they do that.
I
but
don't know if they do that kind of a product.
I don't
so
either.
I don't know that we've had that conversation.
It was just a thought. I mean, you could do like the first row or both sides of the first road, possibly townhouse-style duplexes, get some multifamily on the very north end, and then come in to the next row with single-family homes.
Well, you have that, you'd have that transition too, but.
Yeah, and then you'd also, if the people on the corner are really thinking of doing some multifamily, they could do some apartments there, and then you'd transition down to the duplexes, and then just a thought. But I don't know if, like I say, I don't even know if that's something KB even builds, but just something to throw out there.
I think if it was, they probably.
It's probably true. Figure out a way to get some multifamily in there.
I have a few thoughts. Stop me when I get to rambling, as I'm wont to do. I'll start with this. I think it's a very nice looking subdivision. I like the parks that they've added. It looks like a place our family could live. I know that the price tags, she said, seem really high to us that bought our homes 10 years ago or more, but in today's market, those are relatively affordable for just going by my siblings, what they're trying to buy to get into a home. So it's the kind of product we need right now. I don't like where it is. I think that long-range planning and what Rodney's comments are right on. Why would we develop this against the comp plan that we just came up with, which I think had a lot of good thought behind it? I think that we're lost my train of thought. I guess we keep talking about how far out this project is, and that area is going to change a lot before these first homes are even built. And are we going to be kicking ourselves for saying, well, that's not what matches there anymore? Why did we go against the comp plan? Because now we're stuck with this single-family residential out there on the highway when we could have done something else. I don't think that any of these comments are making some of these people feel any better, because we're talking about developing more intensely than single-family homes. But this is gonna be a major corridor in our city soon. And there's gonna be potential for some good development. There's gonna be potential for some good commercial use out there, which means the people that live out there don't have to drive into what's a marketplace to do all their shopping. Hopefully there's some stuff out there for them to do, and that will help with the traffic. The improvements that ITD is doing is gonna help with the traffic. So I'm against the portion of this project that's in the community mixed use being turned back into single-family homes. I don't hate the single-family homes that are next to Cherry Grove. But to speak to some of the comments here, it is kind of sprawling, leapfrogging, like why not develop closer in before we do that? See what gets developed out there per the comp plan, and then fill in the rest of it. For those reasons, I'm against it. I don't hate it. Like, it's a nice product. I think they look like a good company that we want in our community. It's just not the right time and place for this. project.
I feel you. I think the reason for the thought of leapfrog is pretty obvious. It's just who will sell their land first. I mean, that's what it boils down to. Who's the most willing? Who's ready to retire next week or next month or next year? I think that has a lot to do with it more so than these developers planning.
Sure.
Okay, here's our subdivision. Let's buy this piece of land. Well, that guy said no, so where are we going to go now?
You work with the land you own, right? Yeah.
Yeah, and I think that has a lot to do with it. No, I agree with you. I don't like it. I'd like to see development happen so we don't have as many problems as we do now with the county property within the city that's been in the city for a long time and no future development or annexation of that property. Because it's a lot of lost tax dollars for the city, and that hurts the city. So when we get that urban sprawl, we lose those tax dollars because then you have guys like Blake who do a really good infill project, but there's only so many of those that you can do. And then you lose that. I don't know. Because it's a good product. I like it. So.
I agree. I may not get a vote, but, you know, I agree with everything you said. Drew, those comments were right on point and what I was thinking about. On the flip side of that, this is gonna develop over several years into 2030 plus, depending on market conditions. So, the plan could change over years if something happens to the market. So,
Well, the plan
I
can't
think
change if we.
I think it kind of it's close, right? So we as a commission need to determine if it's close enough, and
Yeah.
I don't know, it's tough because it is a beautiful project.
Not having the commercial component is the hardest part for me to get past on this, though.
Yeah, that mixed use designation, right?
Yeah.
It's mixed
That
use.
mixed use,
but
yes, the
we're-
commercial mixed use.
we're in
On that
one product type, one zoning for the whole project.
By the way, 2030 sounds like decades and decades away. It's not. It's only a few years. And I agree. I just can't get past that one little corner up on 2026 that could be better utilized as far as land use. By the way, our area of impact goes all the way to the Boise River too. So all that's going to be developed into beyond 2026, north of that into low residential type development. If there was some way, and I don't know if the applicant can do this, revamp the plans that allows for that portion along 2026 to be kind of left.
It is their last phase.
What's that?
It is their last phase.
Yeah, yeah. So,
But it's still gonna be single-family
it's still
residential.
gonna be single.
And
And really, that's the hiccup for me too.
And I haven't said anything, but I agree with that also. It's, I don't know, my feeling is against the plan for that very same reason. I like the layout of what they have, but that's as far as it goes.
Like Christie mentioned too, you could make that all commercial all the way down both sides of 2026 and do the accessibility. Some of that in the middle of the blocks could just sit forever before anything ever gets built out. So you could just be sitting there with a big weed field of nothing.
Just look at Middleton and Lake Lowell. I mean, it's been 15, 20 years since that was developed, and it's still more empty lots than there are full lots after 20 years.
Whole different. 2026 takes in so many different communities, though. It pulls traffic in.
Yeah, so many cars go down it, much heavier traveled.
Can't access the commercial piece, it won't develop.
Yeah. Everything
Unless you come through the neighborhood. Which
Yeah, unless you have
people,
to come in the back
people
door.
love that, right?
So is that an argument for considering allowing the single-family residential there against the highway?
I'm for it because like I say, I'm, if they could revamp it and maybe do some duplexes, zero lot line townhomes type stuff up there for some multifamily, but yeah, I mean, you're probably not gonna be able to get across 2026 when it's all done. So it's gonna be right in, right out, and so, you know, the corners are gonna have access, so they'll be able to get traffic coming both ways, but going down 2026, you're not gonna be going east and go to something on the north side because you're never gonna get across that. So I don't see the big stretches of that, commercial, I see it's gonna have some serious problems.
So you're thinking the best option, maybe even go multifamily housing in that section instead of?
Yeah, like maybe, you know, like
Yeah,
say
then
if
they
they could do some duplex style townhomes.
If, yeah.
But,
You're right, commercial wouldn't work all the way across.
no, I mean, you look down farther into Meridian and you can see where they've got subdivisions come right up to 2026. And then they have the pockets of commercial, they just don't stretch it all the way down because it just doesn't work. You can't.
Or you end up with stoplights every quarter mile.
And you don't go anywhere.
Which is worse.
I mean, they develop their big corners, you know, 10 Mile and Linder. So I like the project. I think and it's 10 years out before it's ever finished.
Somebody needs to make a motion or deliberate more.
Well, this is something that came up with a couple other, and I remember the development out by New York Landing. I think it was on the south side of New York Landing, southwest Nampa. And I remember voting against that project because of the timing. I think we're just getting, and I'm not a realtor, so I don't know where we're at as far as, but it seems like we're getting to that point. In fact, the applicant stated it herself when, that's why it's phased out over the next 7, 8 years, is because there's not a need right now for single-family homes. So that could be that's another thing that I'm thinking about is are we getting to that point? And maybe, Mr. Realtor, you can speak to that. Where are we at as far as the need? I know market, and I'm all about that. If market's driving it, then fantastic, but.
And we still do have a lot of people coming this way. We wouldn't have one of the #1 builders in the country here in the Treasure Valley building homes if Boise wasn't still having a big influx of people.
Yeah. and
They don't come to small town Idaho and build homes just because they want to. There's got to be a reason they're here, and they've been here for quite a while. I don't know how long they've actually been around, but in the valley, but they've been here for a while. If interest rates were to change, I mean, right now they're hovering around 6.5%. That's still scaring a lot of people off. But if we can get interest rates back down, make homes more affordable that way, they might not be able to wait 10 years to finish it out. But we don't know what's going to happen over the next few years with interest rates. And two, part of the problem with prices is, goes back to Economics 101, is supply and demand. If you don't have the supply, prices go up. So if you get more supply, it's going to help stabilize the prices. And you can't get the infrastructure, you can't get the schools, you can't get the commercial until you have the rooftops. It just, sorry, but that's the way it works.
You don't have to apologize.
You just can't, it just doesn't, you just can't go out and spend the money to improve the roads and everything else for future development. It just doesn't, you got to get the rooftops there. You got to get people spending money in the neighborhoods, and then the businesses will come.
I think that's my biggest concern is how far out this is. Are we going to be kicking ourselves for locking in something 10 years down the road? That's not part of our comp plan.
Well, I think you look at this stuff they're doing just to the south. They're tying it all in together, and they're transitioning from the bigger lots to the smaller lots to the commercial. So it's what we want to have done. The biggest problem everybody seems to have the hiccup with is mixed use and nothing really of that part. But they're tying their subdivisions together, it's not gonna go any farther than that because they hit 2026, but you've gotta have the rooftops there too. You can't, down Franklin Road, Franklin's gonna be a major access point to and from the city of Napa into 2026, so.
Well, and that's a good point too. You gotta have rooftops. Nobody's gonna put a grocery store on that corner without rooftops there. They just won't do it.
Well, we can put rooftops in the part that the comp plan says is medium-density residential.
Again, we just did that new plan, but
Yeah. Yeah, the plans can change, we can stretch stuff, but.
Peggy? Matt never showed up.
Yeah, that's where we're stuck. That's
where we're off. We're heavy on the other end.
Because I could really go either way on this. I mean, I guess I'm just waiting for someone else to make a motion so I can vote my conscience.
Subdivision, preliminary plat for Resting Rock subdivision for Sabrina Dirtschi with KB Home Idaho representing the owner Linda Noggle, based on the proposed findings for denial as stated in the staff report. No, the findings in the staff report sum up my concerns.
I'll second that.
We have a motion and a second to recommend denial of this annexation and zoning. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Well, we'll take roll call, sorry. Go ahead, Karen.
No.
Nope.
No.
Yes.
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 That's what you gotta do. So you get the big bucks.
Are you waiting for me? Yes. Okay, that motion to deny was approved, correct? Or to recommend denial was approved. That'll go on to city council with a recommendation of denial. Okay? Thank you. Anybody need a break, or are we good to keep going? We got one more.
Let's get it done.
You can have a break. Yeah.
Did I vote on that?
You serious?
Voted yes? Yeah, okay. My gosh, it's been a weird, it's just been
Okay. Last item on the agenda this evening is
seriously.
an annexation and zoning for multiple portions of road right-of-way, including a bunch of stuff, for the city of Nampa. Caleb Leclerc, but he's not here, so Daniel.
So this is just our standard annual right-of-way annexation that we do every year as we develop other projects throughout and have utilities that go in. We work with the Nampa Highway District and soon-to-be Canyon Highway District on these annexations. And this is our list, and if you have any questions, we'll stand for them. We do have a couple of properties that we've included that are not right-of-way, that are at the Orchard and Middleton intersection, just because they were ones that in our right-of-way acquisitions, they connected to city utilities with that project, and now that we're annexing the road, they're contiguous, and we're annexing them based on the agreements we have with those property owners as well.
We have a suggested motion?
Well, you got to have a public hearing and open and take testimony first, if there is anybody.
One person?
Any questions for Daniel? Okay, staff?
Yeah,
Presenting.
my job is pretty simple. Although there are a lot of pictures in your staff report for each of these places where we're looking at right-of-way, I do have them on slides, but I didn't put them into my main PowerPoint section that I'm going to present to you. If you have questions about a specific one, I can jump to those, though. So this is the full description, just for public record. And then annexation, you've seen these before. Applicable regulations, they're required for annexation and zoning. We have to zone anything we annex. And then this is the language that is for the MOU with the highway district. That just says when we will annex these properties. This is recently changed. So it used to be that 50% or whatever of the road that we have developed along. And now it essentially comes down to, do we have utilities in the roadway? If we have utilities in the roadway, we're going to annex it. So that's the new agreement. The Pioneer Irrigation District did have a comment. They indicated that several parcels owed the district money and requested we require property owners pay the assessments before annexation is complete. I think they were confused. Yeah, as you can see on the screen, there's a couple of possibilities they were thinking, but it may have just been the annexation for the municipal irrigation system, and that's not occurring here, and so that's not related. And the parcels they noted are not actually being annexed. They were parcels for reference for the right-of-way in front of them. So I don't think that their concern was valid here.
You're saying the asphalt is not behind on their payments? No.
Correct. That's correct. My staff analysis, I obviously think this is the right thing to do. This is city right-of-way we're purchasing according to our MOU. Here's the proposed findings. There's a lot here, but don't need to spend too much time on there, I don't think. And here's your motion for consideration.
Thank you. Any questions?
The definition of good condition is the same for the city as it is with the highway district?
Yes, we have for the pavement condition index, there's a scale, and good condition is a defined spectrum on that.
All very scientific.
Yes.
No more than 3 potholes per 10 feet.
That's what I was thinking. All right, no, I'm good.
Okay. No more questions. We will move to public testimony. Anybody signed up for this one there, Karen? All right. I'll entertain a motion to close the public hearing.
So moved.
Second.
It's been moved by Jeff, seconded by Steve. I gave you the last one.
Okay, thank you.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, public hearing's closed. What do you guys want to do?
Mr. Chair, I'll make a motion that we recommend approval of the annexation and zoning for multiple portions of road rights of way with zoning to match adjacent parcels at various locations throughout the city of Nampa described in the staff report. Adopt the proposed findings of approval as stated in the staff report for Caleb Hood, representing the Nampa Engineering Division.
Second.
It has been moved and seconded to recommend approval of annexation and zoning for this item. All those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, that motion carries. Okay, and entertain a motion to adjourn.
So.
Okay.